Welcome to the future of education. And now, here's your host, Michael Horn.
Welcome to the future of education. I'm Michael Horn, and you are joining the show where we're dedicated to creating a world in which all individuals can build their passions, fulfill their potential, and live lives of purpose. And to help us think through that today, I'm delighted we've got two very special guests who do very interesting work in their day jobs and have come together in a very cool partnership that we'll get to talk about. We have Jessica Gelman. She is the CEO of Kraft Analytics Group. And Hillary Casson, who is the CEO of Up Education Network. Hillary, Jessica, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Pumped to be here.
Yeah, let's start with a lightning round just to introduce you both to our audience, the organizations that you both lead. I don't know how many of my listeners will be familiar, frankly, with Up Education Network or the Kraft Analytics Group. So Hillary, Jessica, why don't you give us a bit about your respective organizations, what you all do, so people really can get a sense of the context and a clear idea of the day-to-day mission of both. Jessica, why don't you jump in first?
Sure. So KAGR, we work with sports organizations predominantly on helping them use data and technology to engage and understand their customers better. So at our heart, we're like a data warehouse. So integrating a bunch of different insights about who the customers are and helping with machine learning models and some AI and data integrations. And then we also do a bunch of consulting. And some of our clients who the audience might be interested in include everyone from the NFL to the NCAA to NASCAR to, here in Massachusetts, the Patriots, obviously. And we spun out of Kraft Sports and Entertainment about 9 years ago. So that's kind of what we do. And it's obviously very data rich and STEM focused. And I would also just say, separately, but connected to this conference or to this discussion, I also co-founded and co-chair the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, which people love. Let me ask you this question before I let Hillary get in there. You just said the connection to the Patriots and Robert Kraft, obviously, but how did you get to be CEO of such an interesting organization and such a cool job?
Sure. Well, I've been working with the Kraft family for 23 years. They created a role for me right out of Harvard Business School. And I was running many parts of the Patriots business operations, and we were using data to, again, better engage Patriots and Revolution fans. And then, in short, it was very analytically heavy, but I partnered with the Krafts on the creation of KAGR. The original concept was 11 years ago, and then we officially spun out 9 years ago. So I think just like from a data perspective, maybe just to share, we touch today over 75 million sports fans across our data warehouses. So again, the growth of the business and where we started 9 years ago to where we are today is something that we're really proud of. And then I'll speak, of course, to the diversity within our leadership team and across the organization and why partnering with Hillary is something that's so important and near and dear to us.
Well, perfect transition. Hillary, take it away. Tell us about Up Education Network and your own journey there.
Sure. Up Education Network is an organization that manages and runs schools in partnership with districts. And we were founded as essentially like a restart organization that partnered with districts to propel schools that had been stuck at some of the lowest achievement levels and percentile levels. And we've done that across the state in a number of different regions. And we are different in that we do partner with districts to prove that public school can and must work for every kid. And we're different in that we intentionally really serve communities that have been distanced from resources. So our student need level is a bit higher than your average district school or charter school. And we commit on behalf of the districts, but even more so on behalf of the families and students to really propel those schools so that they have an amazing school in their communities that sets kids up for a life of agency and purpose and freedom beyond the time that they're with us. We started in 2010, and now we have 2 campuses in Dorchester and serve 1,300 kids ages pre-K to 8. And our schools, one thing I love about our 2 schools is that they're walking distance from each other. So we really have a huge impact on this community in particular. I have, similar to Jess, have been kind of a lifer at UP. I moved just because I was so taken by the mission. I moved from Baltimore to help found one of our schools.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know anybody up here. And I was like, I want to work there for that mission and purpose. But I've been here since. That was 11 years ago. And I was an assistant principal, then a principal. And then I was coaching the principals for the network. And now I'm in my 2nd year as CEO.
And you mentioned the student base is, perhaps lower income, more diverse than a lot of the districts or charters in the area. Just give us a sense of who those students are.
Sure. The first thing I'll say about our students is that they are just like amazing and so immensely capable, and the communities that we work with are so asset rich and phenomenal. But from a demographic purposes, about 93% of our students are coded as high needs, according to state designations, compared to, about a 70% average for charters public. There's a little bit of variation there, but and about 40% of our students are language learners, so actively working on building their English proficiency, with even higher percentages having a first language other than English. And then most of our students are low income.
Gotcha. Super helpful, I think, to give us a sense. Yeah. Super helpful, I think, to give us a sense of who you're serving. So in the last year, as I really understand it, like UP Education Network in existence for 15 years, but you have started to make a very big push to help students get far more experiences with companies in professional settings, out in the real world, so to speak. So perhaps before we get into the specifics and what that looks like, just tell me about the why behind that push. Why did you conclude that this was going to be really important?
Sure. I think it was, first of all, it's been so fun and such a privilege. But in thinking about why do that, I really believe that in my position or in any educator's scope you're really required to think about, how do I set this human being or this group of human beings up for success long term? I believe that the purpose of school is to prepare folks to have a life of agency and freedom and to choose their own path. And ideally, that path allows them to, get a living wage, build a family if they choose to, et cetera. And so what I know to be true, both from life experience as a person who grew up in a very rural area that had very limited access to opportunity and sightlines, and then also as an educator, that we cannot stop preparing kids just at academics. And don't get me wrong, like academics are absolutely essential. Like if we don't at baseline prepare kids academically, we failed. And that is not the only thing that kids need to be successful. And I think you look at any person who has attained like success, and how I'm going to say that is that they're able to like feed their family, make choices, have leisure time, things of that nature. Like there is more happening for them than just academic success. And so just thought a lot about like, what does it take to break down silos and build those skills that help folks long term? And to me, a lot of that is like providing kids sightlines. And so we were like, wow, we are in Boston. Like, what an amazingly asset-rich area. Let's get kids exposure, experiences, and all along the way, help them feel really good about the process. So that's kind of like the why at a macro level.
Perfect. Well, let's get into the what before I bring Jessica in and how KAGR started to interface with this. What did you create for students? I know you started to create these partnerships with companies so that they would get that exposure, connection, awareness, sightlines. But what does it look like on the ground over the course of a year? What's that student's experience like?
Sure. And I have to shout out my colleague and COO, Mike Bauer, who is like the real powerhouse behind the work, and made so much of what I'm going to talk about come to life. But in terms of what it looks like, we have essentially like 3 phases to our process, but I'll speak to the middle first, and that is the experience with the companies. And I very intentionally choose the word experience because Jess and KAGR and all of our other partner companies really do an experience with our kids. So at KAGR, our kids got a chance to look at fan profiles and think about how could they market to these different fans to get them into the arena more, to see more games. And they really problem solved and worked through it as a group and came up with promotional packages that they could then market to these specific fans. They're not sitting and hearing a panel or listening to a lecture. They are doing work that is reminiscent of what actually happens at these different companies. And that is a very intentional thing, because not only is it more fun and more engaging, but they build a ton of knowledge about the places. And they build so many skills that they may not even know they're building in the moment, such as ability to iterate, collaborate, communicate. But that's really a very intentional thing on our part to make sure that the experiences have those elements as well. And then before they go, they research a bit on, who is KAGR, for example, and what is market segmentation? So they're not just whoa, I'm struck by these terms that I haven't heard before. We give them a little bit of an access point. And then afterward, they do a reflection on what did I learn? What did I like? What am I taking away from this experience? And how that's looked this past year is that each homeroom is partnered with a company and has an in-depth experience like that. As we look to the future, we're looking to a bit of increase for 7th grade to have 2 experiences. In our 8th grade, we're hoping this year to have it be a multi-touch point so that they're also get with one company so that they're able to really build relationships, which we know is so critical for social capital. So it's been so fun and so awesome. But again, our amazing partner companies have been critical. And then Mike Bauer, who's one of our staff people here, and bringing that to life.
So it'll start to deepen and so forth. Jessica, let me turn to you and bring you in here, because when Hillary, Up Education, Mike, they first reach out around this partnership idea, I'm super curious, your thoughts. I could imagine you saying, sounds great in theory, but how are we going to find time to have middle schoolers in the building? That sounds a little disruptive, or I know exactly how to build this. Let's get going. Or maybe it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B, but I'm just sort of curious your reaction and then how it sort of played out.
Well, first, I need to give full credit to the KAGR team that really led this initiative, starting with Alex Freeband, Lissy Harris, and Lauren Pequin, and there was others like Molly Murphy, and people who dedicated their time. And I would say that our kind of giving back to the community is really focused on supporting people from historically underrepresented parts of the sports ecosystem. And I'll just we believe very firmly that comfort with analytics and technology can be a great equalizer in supporting, more of a meritocracy. So that's just a starting point. And I think even from the perspective of me as a female leader of a technology and analytics company in sports, which is obviously multiple things that are.
I was going to say, you're hitting a unicorn there. Of,
very male dominated, but I think the differentiator or thing that has enabled our organization to have such impact and influence across sports is that we are helping people think differently, and we are attracting into our organization people who care about this mission that Hillary and Mike are spearheading. And so it was more when, Mike, this is the connection to Mike, so big kudos to him. He reached out to me. Now, Mike was one of the student leads of the Sloan Conference, I think a decade ago.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he reached out, and obviously certainly didn't know all of the different things that we already do within the community, but sometimes this was not one that we would have known about, as an example. And I think our relationship and knowing him, honestly, I think it's the 20th anniversary of the Sloan Conference this year. And I think he may have been in the 5th or 6th year. So a long time ago. So to me, knowing him and his views on the world and his care and what he's about, and then knowing, what our team and what we care about, and the representation also that we have at KAGR, which is also different. We do have a strong, broader representation, I guess I would say. And I think that it's really important for young people to see people who look like them, to be able to aspire. And then, of course, yes, the context of sports and something that maybe they have or haven't experienced, and incrementally, like our offices legitimately look at Gillette Stadium. These are things for middle school aged kids. I just reflecting back to my own time many years ago, and what things like that might have done. I never had the opportunity to have that experience, but the concept of like see it, be it is really powerful. So I couldn't emphasize and want to support the mission of Up more. That said, it was our team that really was passionate about it and made it come to be. And I think the impact and awareness for everything that Hillary is leading is something that we really care about and want to continue to support.
Well, so I want to dive deeper a little bit on this point, because as Hillary and I know each other, something we've talked about is, particularly as the use of AI grows and changes of nature of work is going to become more unpredictable, rapid, changing, et cetera. To me, the connection between school and career actually becomes more and more important than it even has been, giving students real world experiences, connection. Hillary, you mentioned social capital with professionals, like incredibly critical. I also think it's important for companies as you think about pipelines and so forth. But what I guess I've observed, Jessica, and I'd love your take on this, and then Hillary as well, it does seem to me that there's some friction in there for companies, as in like, you have here and now to deliver on, projects for clients and things of that nature, taking time out to have a student who might, benefit a decade hence from, is sort of it takes you a little bit off the pathway, if you will, in the immediate term. Obviously, it's a good long-term mindset, but there is some friction there. And I guess I'm just curious, how do we have to reduce friction to create more of these partnerships? So it's not, Up claims all the good ones, but more schools can have great partnerships with companies in the area. What does it take on behalf of the school and company to make these things possible? Jessica, why don't you dive in first about it, and then Hillary just jump right on in after.
I mean, I think one of the biggest hurdles is transportation and being able to get to the locations. And it was actually one of the biggest things that I thought about, worried about, because they're based in Dorchester and we're in Foxborough. And so that was something that I asked about immediately, and they had a solve on there. They had thought it through already. And so I think once I knew that that big hurdle was crossed, my thinking and expectation is like, okay, they know what they're doing. This isn't going to be, we're going to just have to deliver the solution. There isn't going to be the incremental hand holding or helping them think through what I would call are the tactical operations of doing. And that's really important because, as you're saying, time is of the essence. It always is. One of the things I love about the 20-something generation that, again, in early 30s, that was really spearheading it on our part, the millennials, if you will, this part of engagement is so important to them too, personally, and recognizing kind of the opportunities that they have had and wanting to affect and create change. So I think it's a combination of, for Up Education, finding the right type of organization. We're a small organization, we're only 75 people. So undertaking something like this is big and it is significant, but knowing that the partner that we're working with recognizes that. I mean, honestly, appreciation is important, but also is going to take out some of the friction, as you kind of alluded to, on the very operational components, right? Like, we don't want to feel like we need to be overthinking food and, all of those different types of elements. So
sure. Hillary, I'd love your perspective on this, about like what schools can do to make this an easier yes for companies. And maybe, so we've just heard about the logistics. The other aspect that strikes me is like meaningful experiences that you alluded to, right? Where you're doing work either that's actually helpful for the company or, sort of simulating what one would do. But that can also be its own set of distraction, I could imagine, for a company to like sit there creating stuff that middle schoolers are not going to be immediate contributors on all the time. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, it was a bit of trial and error at first, but what we kind of think about and have tried to lean into is the idea that it is our entire job to look ahead to the future and kind of and think about like, what do we need to do today to prepare kids for tomorrow? So, us dedicating a bit of time and resource to this initiative felt really true and core to our mission. So that is kind of a thing that we can bring to companies and say like, hey, we would love to do this with you. And we'll try to do as much of the work as we can to make this an easy, hopefully, yes for you all. And that, to Jess's point, includes like the logistics, right? But also includes like, hey, we really know our kids. And we really know the types of experiences that will be worthwhile for them and engaging for them. And so we have a team here at Up, spearheaded again by Mike, that helps to design the experiences and takes really takes the pen on that. We get ideas from the companies for the most part, and then we'll create something that we'll iterate on with the companies. We basically say like, let us do the lion's share of the work in creating an experience that both matches what the company's bread and butter is, but also will meet our kids where they are and hopefully result in an experience that makes everyone feel like this was really meaningful. But if another place or space were to try to scale this, I think you need a person or a team that's going to say like, I will ensure that KAGR or whoever you're working with hopefully has a good experience, finds it easy to work with us. I'm responsive. I'm reaching out to them to make sure that, we have everything we need, everything's smooth. And I think that team was really, really necessary for us. And part of the team was leadership at the network, and then part of it were school folks. Having those school-based champions was helpful as well. But I have found that helps decrease friction, is like making it light, as light as possible.
Yeah. So last question for you both as we start to wrap up. If that's like the playbook for what schools need to be thinking about, what makes a good employer or company for this, right? Like, what's the other side of the bargain? Hillary, maybe you go first on this, and Jessica, you can wrap it up. Of like, I imagine not every company would be able to do what KAGR did, to take in however many middle school students and give them an incredible experience over the course of the day.
Yeah, I think the main crux of it is a culture and some sort of ethos that cares about this. And I think a lot of companies do have that and really run the spectrum in terms of types of work that they do. But if your company or organization has people that like care about doing good, I think that's a huge check right off the bat. And then beyond that, I think it's folks that are willing to, at any level. We've often found a real sweet spot at like not the very, very junior people, but like maybe that middle level that are able to give like a couple meetings and then, work with our team. Hopefully not too cumbersome, but a squad of folks that are able to connect a few times. And then the best case scenario is something, and Jess spoke about this, that kids can connect to in some way. I think we'd all be surprised at how much kids can connect to and grasp. Like, I think some people would be like, oh, our company wouldn't be good for that because we're too XYZ. Often I think we can make it, but the obvious and easy yeses are a place like KAGR where kids are like, wow, it has the wow factor when you walk in. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Gillette, right?
Yeah.
Also, they do work that have kids are like, oh yeah, I've watched sports, or I've thought about like what type of fan I am. I think that's the optimal partnership type. But I do think there are more folks that can be a fit than can't be a fit.
Jessica, I'd love your take on this, because I'm hearing your company with 75 people that touches 75 million, I think you said, sports fans. Like that's a high leverage on individual there that you're getting out. So like to have the capacity to bring in a bunch of middle schoolers, and I imagine longer run, like, we'd love to see these partnerships with high school students, et cetera, et cetera. Like what's the playbook on the company side to make this work?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been doing programs like this. We do get requests from high schools. We do get requests from colleges. We host a program in the fall. So maybe this is like an indication of what organizations are ripe for it. We host an event called Coding with KAGR. Coding is with a K, but it's a collaboration of data in the next generation. And we invite, obviously, Boston and Massachusetts are rich with colleges. So we invite all the local women in analytics, women in tech, down to our offices. 75% of our executive team is women. And we host a series of case studies and day in the life with our engineers, our data science, and our consultants. And so my point here is that we are doing like active outreach to the community. Middle school is certainly younger, but I think for the audience and the importance of reaching this audience, that's something that we really care about. And it was a unique opportunity for us to be able to kind of embrace and engage with a school of that size, age, and desire to come down, because it can be, honestly, a lot of the lift is just the back and forth communication of timing and things like that. So, but I think an organization that has a predisposition for doing things like this, which of course we have.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I'm excited to show this conversation to my daughters because I think this is going to inspire them on a couple fronts. But look, I know this is like the beginning of a partnership that could go in a lot of really cool ways. And it sounds like there are plans to deepen the connections for the students and create even more experiences over the course of a year. I'm excited to see where it goes. I hope as it evolves, you all will come back and tell us about it. And just huge thanks, Jessica and Hillary, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting this.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. And for all you tuning in, we'll be back next time on The Future of Education.